So this video here is to help you improve your sleep, either in length or the quality of the sleep that you're getting. Because realistically, if you're watching this, first and foremost, you probably think that you could do with getting a better sleep. You could be someone that really struggles to fall asleep, someone that actually gets to sleep but then wakes up far earlier than you would like to, or you could be someone that just has a generally disturbed sleep through the night. So the idea of this video is to give you the tips and some exercises and the knowledge to actually give you the power to actually change that and try to improve your sleep. Because we know that the benefits of getting a really good quality sleep of adequate length is better mood, so your mental health and just general day-to-day mood can improve. You can feel more energized during the day, so that's obviously useful for work or family life, but also when we transition that into our training, if we are feeling better within ourselves when we go into a training session, we can probably push a little bit harder, improve the intensity, and obviously long-term effects of being able to push better quality training sessions will hopefully lead to better quality results, which is obviously what you come to the gym for, is to get the results you're looking for. And in general, you'll just have improved day-to-day functioning. So your productivity might be better. You might kind of experience low or less slumps during the day. I'd suggest that as you go through this video, make some notes or have a piece of paper or on your phone, ideally paper so you're not getting too distracted. Make some notes on some of the things I say, because I'm going to say quite a lot that could hit different aspects of your lives. So because there's many different people that I'm speaking to, there may be aspects you think, yeah, I could work on that. You might be aspects going, no, I think I've got that under control. So you can park those for a bit. So make some notes, and you could just flag up anything that you think personally you can work on. Now, when it comes to changing your sleep, the things that we do in the day will influence our sleep at night. And we have this thing called sleep hygiene, which is essentially the way that we set ourselves up every day to have a good quality sleep. Now, there's a few habits that I'm going to list through now that play their part in how good your sleep is every night. So as I go through them, again, you could just make a little note of which ones you feel you need to work on the most. Pick one from this list and then work on it. So what I will say with the time frame of all this is that you may experience positive improvements in sleep early on in a couple of days, maybe, but on the flip side, you may not experience them for a good couple of weeks, maybe even a month. Like, different people and different habits take different time frames to see positive results. And you may find that once you've worked on one, you then start to build on another whilst maintaining the good habits of the first one. And then in general, there's a pattern of more positive sleep occurring, which is obviously what we're looking for. So don't be disheartened if after only a couple of days, you're not seeing the improved sleep that you would like. Keep persevering, be consistent, just like you would with a training plan. And then hopefully over the coming months, your sleep will improve, and so will your daily habits that contribute to the quality of sleep. So just to reiterate, like, good sleep hygiene, it's all about putting together day-to-day good habits that will influence really good quality and length of sleep. So one of the first habits I want to talk about is alcohol, because some people consider that when they drink alcohol, they actually fall to sleep quicker and sometimes actually sleep longer after consuming alcohol the night before. But the thing is with this is that although that the hours are longer that they've slept, the quality of the sleep is generally less than what they would get without the alcohol. So although you're getting more hours, people that have consumed alcohol before bedtime and in larger quantities may actually still wake up feeling quite weary, quite tired, and not rested. And the idea of having a good night's sleep is to feel rested. So the suggestion would be if you could minimize the alcohol intake in the evenings, and also try and have your alcohol intake 3 to 4 hours before bed. So it's not to say you can't enjoy 1 or 2 drinks with dinner. You can. Just try and limit the alcohol intake on a day-to-day basis to 1 to 2 glasses or drinks, whatever it may be. And also try and have it 3 to 4 hours before you actually go to bed. In a similar vein, I'll talk about coffee, because coffee can be quite a habitual drink that's drunk every day by a lot of people, and coffee contains caffeine, and it's caffeine that stimulates our body to feel really alert and awake, which is sometimes why we actually drink it, because we're feeling a little bit tired, so we'll have a coffee to wake us up. It's a very common thing that we see. But the thing with this is, obviously, our body wants to get tired at night time, but if we're consuming caffeine later into the day, we're kind of telling our body to stay awake, even though it's night time, we want to go to sleep. So I'm sure it's quite obvious to see, if you're having something that tells you and stimulates your body to be more awake and alert at a time that we want to be not so alert and more tired, there's going to be issues. So more often than not leads to not falling asleep as quickly as one would like. So the other thing people don't know about caffeine is that within your system in the body, once you've ingested it, it can take upwards of 10 hours to actually be eliminated from the system. So that means, in terms of when you should have it, we want to be looking to kind of cut or stop caffeine being taken into the body by about 2 p.m. latest, really. In an ideal world, midday, because obviously 10 hours from there is still 10 o'clock, which is a relatively decent bedtime. And then another habit that we could talk about, which is semi-forced upon us, is daylight, because obviously the sun rises in the morning, sets at night time. So we always have this guaranteed period of daylight that's going to occur. But we want to get into a habit of exposing ourselves to daylight, because our body runs on this circadian rhythm that you may have heard of. It's basically your body clock. And it's the daylight that stimulates these clocks, almost gets it to reset and go, right, the day is starting. And then when the sun goes down, that's when the body has its clock signals to go, okay, well, it's getting darker now, it's time to rest and sleep. But we can do things to obviously mix these signals, because we have things like blackout blinds in the morning, so we can actually prevent the daylight coming through the windows and extend our nighttime period. And we have things like lights and screens that can extend our daylight hours, be it fake light, but it's still blue light that stimulates our body to be, oh, I need to be awake. So if we can, a good habit that would be to get into is actually, can we expose ourselves to natural daylight as early into the day as possible? And can we try and get ourselves 20-30 minutes of daylight before we actually crack on with the day? So for those of you with dogs, it's relatively easy in that sense, because you can take your dog for a walk before you kind of get set up to go to work or to proceed with your day. If that's not quite an option, because you have to kind of get up, get ready and go, the next best option is, can you just get 20 to 30 minutes of daylight as early as possible in your day? And this isn't to say that it has to be beaming sunlight. This is just, it's daylight in general. So even if it's cloudy, get yourself up and out and exposed into some of that, and it just helps the body clock start to kind of find their a regular rhythm, which is what we're looking for. We're looking for regularity day to day. And again, touching on from what we've just said in the daylight section, the screens and lights are another habit that we could build upon and improve. As I've said, these screens that we have, TVs, phones, tablets, laptops, etc., they emit blue light. And essentially, without being too technical, the blue light is what, when we look at it, it stimulates our body to be awake and alert and not tired, which is obviously what we want at night time. So if we can start minimizing our exposure to this blue light later on in the day and closer to bedtime, we have a better chance of our body calming down and being less stimulated by the screens. So with the way technology is advancing as well, we do have ways to help this now. So with most smartphones and tablets and laptops, they do have night modes or dark options. So if you can turn those on 2 to 3 hours before heading to bed, that would be ideal. And then if you could just not use anything electronic an hour or so or more, if possible, before bed, that will go a long way to helping the body be less stimulated and more relaxed heading into your sleep. Now, again, with the way that we work nowadays in the world, some of us have to work quite late on screens, so that's not ideal, but we can work around it. Nowadays, other companies can produce and have made these glasses that basically block out as much of the blue light as possible. So if you are someone that works later on screens or has to be around screens for later into the day and close to bedtime, it may well be worth looking into getting some blue light blocking glasses. Sometimes they're orange tinted. Nowadays they're actually becoming more clear, so they just look like normal glasses rather than being on a building site. But they can go a very, very long way to helping you and your brain be less stimulated at nighttime, and then contribute towards a better sleeping pattern and quality. The next daily habit we can think about is exercise. So it's finally in here, being that this is what we do with personal training. We exercise in the gym, and hopefully away from your sessions you're doing at least a couple of sessions a week. But to break it down to really simple terms, like every day you wake up, your body has energy to use. So we want to try and make a conscious effort to at least use some a day, so that we're using the energy sources that we have, rather than just keeping it within us. So it's going to contribute towards that feeling of tiredness towards the end of the day. So obviously, if you're going to come in for a gym session, push a good gym session at whatever point in the day you can, that'd be great. But if you're on a day where you cannot train for whatever reason, can you try and get 30 minutes of even low intensity exercise? That is literally as simple as walking. Can you get 30 minutes of walking done in the day? If 30 minutes is still a push for time, you can break that up into 3 lots of 10 minutes. And I'm sure we can all find 10 minutes of time just to get a low intensity walk done. So again, expending that energy will contribute towards that tired feeling towards the end of the day. And then one of the last habits that we can work on is our feeding, and specifically the timing. So late night feeding is less ideal for our sleep, because again, our body works on a clock. So when we're exposed to daylight early in the day, we're ready to start the day. The body wants obviously food to digest food through the day. And if we're going towards the latter stages of the day, towards bedtime, or we're eating really close to bed, the body wants to be going to sleep. It kind of doesn't want to be digesting food. And with research that's coming out now, we know now are starting to see that the body doesn't even digest the food as well as if you eat it earlier in the day. So if you can have your dinner 2 to 3, 4 hours before bedtime, that'd be great. Give yourself the chance to actually digest that, and then the body can focus on sleeping at nighttime. If you are getting hungry later on towards the day and you have to have a later dinner or consume something later on in the evening, the suggestion would be, can you keep whatever you're consuming to under 200-300 calories, and could you have something that is higher in protein? Because the research is suggesting that actually the protein can be broken down over nighttime better than things like carbs and fats. But rather than consistently having a big dinner at nighttime, can you just have something slightly smaller and give your body less to deal with whilst it's sleeping? Now, that's a long list of habits, so I'll reiterate this again. Just pick one of them and start trying to improve it, and keep going with it. Even if you're not seeing results in your sleep straight away, keep trying to improve that habit. And when you feel like you have that sussed and it's automatic, then pick another habit and then improve that, make that better, and then hopefully these things will add up over time to give you a better length and quality of sleep. So now we've spoken about the habits that you can focus on day to day and the different aspects that we can work on that influence your sleep. I just thought I'd make a few comments on that, basically regarding sleep in general. So our bodies work on this clock, this rhythm. So it's called the circadian rhythm, and it literally does run 24 hours, just over 24 hours. And those things basically can influence also how well that's and how regular that clock works. So our bodies expect to see daylight in the mornings, and they expect to see kind of darkness in the evenings when it wants to go to sleep. But there's a bit of individual difference here as well, so we have to respect that. There are some of us that are early risers, and they feel better getting up earlier in the morning, and then there are the night owls, so they don't like getting up in the morning quite so much, but they can stay awake later at night time. So we do have to respect kind of our genetics that we've been given to, and maybe it's the way we've been brought up in the environment. But the general trend of this is, if you were to have a few bad, crappy nights sleep in a row, you will feel tired in the morning, or after your sleep, you will start to feel more tired. And what happens with the body is it starts to kind of naturally try and mess with your timing side by bringing bedtime earlier. Because you're tired, it wants you to fall asleep earlier, almost in a way to make up the sleep you've not been getting, and to rest and recover. Because that's essentially what the body's doing when you're sleeping, it's recovering. So these sleep hygiene habits that we've just spoke about are really important to getting you into a regular routine, so that it almost works like clockwork. And what it means is, like, irrespective of your daily schedule, we're just looking to try and minimize the like getting your body into a state of excitement or arousal later on into the evening. That's when you want to be calming things down, and then when you're waking up, that's when we kind of want to put our stimulation into the body to get us awake and going forwards with our day-to-day. This takes us in nicely into the fact that because we're looking to keep this body clock regular, we want regular sleep, because that's going to be a massive contributor to how regular we are on a day-to-day basis. And something that can contribute towards the regularity of sleep is having a consistent area or environment to sleep in. And what we mean by like the sleep environment is essentially the room that we sleep in. How is it set up? Is it set up to facilitate and improve your sleep, or is it set up to keep you awake at night and have your brain almost thinking about other things which keep you awake? Now, again, to note on this is completely dependent on your living circumstances. So obviously those with more rooms in a house can have more options to put places elsewhere. Those of you in smaller accommodations like 1-bedroom flats, etc., obviously you're limited, so you just have to make the best of the situation that you're in. Again, there's no right or wrong, but you can do things to influence things in a positive way. And the idea, we're just trying to influence our sleep and to give us a better length and quality of sleep. Now, the first thing I want you to do, almost like a task, so I want you to do this now, even if you pause the video, I want you to write down the earliest time possible for you to go to sleep. So that's the earliest time where you feel tired, where lights off, you can go to bed. Doesn't matter what that time is, just write it down and keep a note of it. So hopefully now you've done that task. Realistically, our bed is for sleeping and cuddling, maybe, but realistically, the whole point of bed is to sleep and to rest and recover. We don't really want to associate bed with anything else. And this means, like I've said, the surrounding area, like the literal surrounding areas of your bed, needs influence and contribute towards sleep. So I'm just going to list off a few factors that you can start thinking about. Again, pick a couple, work on them, see if you can adapt them and change them to your circumstance. Because like I said, I'm talking to a lot of you with completely different houses and situations. But work on them and see if they also help improve the quality of the sleep that we're getting. One of the first things is, can you keep the temperature low? So I think from what we know, around 16, 17 degrees at night time is a good temperature for good quality sleep. By being cooler, the body is able to relax a little bit more. We all know what it's like on a hot summer's night. If it's absolutely roasting, it's really hard for us to kind of settle down and sleep. We want to minimize the clutter in the room. So any clutter there is, that could be clothes, books, work stuff, just hanging around the bedroom. If we're going to bed and we can visually see clutter, for some of us it might stimulate the brain to go, oh, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that, I need to put this away, I need to put that away. Or if it's work related stuff, you might be thinking about, work thoughts go through the brains, and it just, again, it stimulates that arousal that kind of fires you up again, when actually we don't want that. We want to be relaxing, chilling, and just calming the body down before we head to sleep. One of the third things we could do is, again, minimizing the screens in the bedroom. So again, if you're going to have a TV, can you put it on the dark mode, night mode, or can you wear some blue light blocking glasses whilst you're watching TV in bed? Obviously, in an ideal world, don't have screens in the bed at all. If you're going to watch TV, watch it in the front room. Then when you are done, turn everything off. Then you go to the bedroom purely to sleep. Again, same with the phones. Can you leave your phones either in the front room, or if you need it for your alarm, make sure the alarms are set. put it on your bedside table, and then when you're in bed, try not to touch your screens, try not to sit there just scrolling away for the sake of it. Try and stay off the screens and think about going to sleep. So this one might feel quite obvious, but keeping the room dark. Naturally, if we can keep the room as dark as possible, we've got that darkness that the body wants, so we can really try and drift off into a decent sleep. So we've got things like blackout blinds, thick curtains, etc. If these aren't possible for whatever reason, then you may want to look into eye masks, for example, because they can be decent at just blocking out as much light as possible whilst you're asleep. And the last one, not really affecting your regularity of sleep, but something that you can use to analyse your regularity of sleep, is maybe use a sleep tracking app. Now obviously it goes against the whole don't use the screens, but if you can literally turn your sleep tracking app on just before you go to bed, it will track kind of the quality of your sleep, and then you have some data that you can actually look at and go, do you know what, my sleep is or isn't improving, and depending on the apps that you use, it might tell you at what stages of nighttime that you're having disturbed sleep or when you're in your deep sleep. The one I would recommend is the one that I use, is called Sleep Cycle, but there are other ones out there, so you can just experiment with which sleep apps you use. And I suppose the most important aspect of regularity when it comes to sleep is the time you go to sleep and the time that you wake up. So the waking up time is arguably more important than the go to bed time. We're looking to get no less than 5.5 hours. So obviously, depending on what stage you're at now personally with your sleep, on how many hours you're getting, the ideal part, number one, is, I suppose, is can we get at least 5.5 hours of sleep per night? And then we're looking to build from there. So that time I've got you to write down a bit earlier of your earliest possible bedtime, so to say. I now want you to write down your wake up time, your daily wake up time, because in an ideal world with this regularity thing, we want your wake up time to be the same every day. So even on the weekends then, say for example you're someone that wakes up early Monday to Friday but doesn't want to wake up quite so early on a weekend. Again, this is talking absolute ideal, so this might not be that convenient for you. You'd have to play around with this. You could just set your alarm for the same time that you would normally wake up Monday to Friday. Wake up so you're aware of it, but then you can stay in bed, drift back off to sleep. And that will help from the regularity point of view of, well, I'm still waking up at the same time, which keeps kind of the body clock kind of going in the same cycle, essentially. Now, all of this isn't to say if you suddenly stop having this regular sleep that it's all going to go Pete Tong, but if you can, life is life, and we will have these times when you can't either get to bed at the same time that you normally would, i.e. it'll be a bit later, and you also can't wake up at the same time for whatever reason. So that's okay. The idea is okay, this is just for the majority of the time, and the others just be anomalies and outside of the normal. But as soon as you can, get back to that normal regular routine, and that should again lead to better quality sleep, better length of sleep, less disturbed sleep. Now, in regards to how long should you sleep, like I said, so I've said we want that minimum of 5.5 hours, but there's no real, obviously the natural suggestion that you see all over the place is around 7 to 9 hours, but it is individual, and we can survive on different numbers of hours, and it's very personal. So you have to figure these things out. So if you feel like you're not getting enough sleep, or you feel like you're getting too much sleep, basically we want to ask ourselves one really simple question after a night of sleep. Do I feel rested? If you do feel rested and you feel good in yourself for the day, then you've probably had enough sleep. If you're waking up and you feel weary, tired, and you feel like you've not had enough sleep, then you probably haven't had enough sleep. Again, if you're watching this and you've got this far, then you're probably thinking, well, I don't get enough sleep, or I don't get good enough sleep. So what we want to do is almost reverse engineer from here by working on the habits that we've already spoke about. So consistently trying to get better at these habits that contribute to better sleep. And then we also want to try and build maybe a longer sleep routine. So by using that time at the earliest possible time you feel you can get to bed right now, we want to try and make that earlier by 15 to 30 minute chunks over time. And then we're basically building this routine where the body will start to get tired at the earliest possible time. So say, for example, at the moment, my earliest possible sleep time is 11 o'clock. But I feel like I'm not getting enough sleep. So I want to work on my habits. Say, for example, alcohol intake. I'm going to stop my alcohol intake before bed. A couple of weeks go down the line. Okay, I get tired at 11. That's fine. I'm going to try and bring that earlier to 10:45 or 10:30 p.m. Keep working on my habits, getting my exercise in, no alcohol intake. Okay, maybe I start getting tired around 10:30, so I'll let myself go to bed at 10:30. Then all of a sudden I've got an extra half hour of sleep, still waking up at 5 a.m. But I'm starting to feel more rested. So that's really cool. And you can keep going like that until the point where, you know what, I'm getting enough sleep, I feel really rested day to day, my energy is good. I think 10:15 is my perfect bedtime with a 5 a.m. wake up. It's very different. That's one example, but it could be different for you. But if you make notes of the times where you go to bed and you wake up, whether you feel good or not good, we'll work from there. We're looking to feel better more often than we're feeling rubbish. And as I've said earlier on in this video, it's about being consistent and trying to change these habits over time. Yes, you may experience some positive effects a few days into this, but you may not for a couple of weeks or months. It's about all the contributions over time of the little things adding up together. So just keep trying, even if you feel like you're going nowhere, keep trying to do the good things, and eventually over time there will be some positive effects coming from all of the habits that you're building and improving. And then once you get there, you'll kind of have your routine where you feel you're good for it, that's your routine, you can then stick to it. And then if it needs adjusting along the line, then you already have the tools and the knowledge to be able to do that. So in summary of everything, just to kind of summarize all of this sleep stuff, because there's a lot to take on board. So I would highly recommend kind of coming back to this as well and just re-looking over things, revisiting habits. One of the more important things that we're looking for is like, can you get more than 5.5 hours sleep per night? Can we find a consistent sleeping window for you to get good quality sleep in? And if it's not long enough at the moment, you're looking over the weeks to add, to bring your sleep time earlier by 15 to 30 minutes every week or two, and trying to allow the body to feel tired to go to bed at that time. You want to be working on your sleep hygiene, improving your sleeping area or environment, and any of the habits that you feel you personally need to work on to improve that sleep hygiene, and therefore that will contribute to better sleep. And work on one habit at a time. Try not to take on too much. You don't want to overwhelm yourself and get kind of not work on each habit as well as you could because you're so busy trying to work on several habits at the same time. So can you work on one habit at a time? And when you are in a good situation with it where it's automatic now, you don't need to think about it, you'll then be ready to then move on to the next habit, whilst also maintaining. So don't just move on to the next habit and forget about the one you've just worked on. You want that to stick, and then you're just adding another one on top. And again, final point, I'll say it one more time because it really is important. Patience. Can you be patient with the process? Do things over time, give it time to kick in so to say, and to improve. And then if after 6 months there is absolutely no improvements, then we can just look at other aspects to improving your sleep.